Chubby cheeks, dimple chin, rosy lips, teeth within, curly hair, very fair, eyes are blue, lovely too, teacher's pet, is that you? Yes, yes, yes. Hello everyone. Today we'll be talking about the poem When I Was Growing Up by Nellie Wong. Before moving on to the poem and the poet as such, uh, I'll give you a brief know-how regarding how the concept of beauty or the beauty myth as such has stopped us from being ourselves. We will of course move to the nursery rhyme which I was reciting. This nursery rhyme is a rhyme which all are familiar with. We grow up with that rhyme. But then, this nursery rhyme tells us about the qualities that we need so as to be accepted by our teacher. This is what is being taught. You need to have chubby cheeks, dimple chin, rosy lips and curly hair, fairer skin, so as to be the teacher's pet. Now, our nursery rhymes are never innocent at all. They are very political, they are very gendered, and they are very colored as well. The kids in any school are being engineered into set ideals by these kinds of rhymes which are being taught at schools. You have the Western concept of beauty, of having blue eyes, golden hair, long fingers, fixed breasts. These are different ways by which the patriarchal code of conduct tries to chain women. Women are so very indoctrinated into this concept that they always try to fit themselves into this concept of beauty. Physical perfection is measured against the models that are being put forward by the European, Western, male standards who see themselves and none other than themselves as beautiful. Now, each and every woman in the non-Western countries or non-European countries have a tendency to emulate the Western standards of beauty. And this Western standard of beauty is being transmitted to us via different media. Like you have the newspapers, the magazines, the films, advertisements, social media. All these help the Westerners to inject into the non-Europeans the concept of beauty, that fair is beautiful and black is not beautiful, or yellow is not beautiful, brown is not beautiful. You have white as the standard of beauty. And we have a tendency, women have a tendency to go for the media, to believe in the newspapers, to believe in the magazines, to go after the films and advertisement, what they say. And even when I think about this concept of beauty, I feel like even exercising and dieting, which are usually considered to be something connected with health, has now turned out to do everything with being size 0. See, dieting becomes almost a kind of a starving. When a child is born, what happens in our society when a child is born, what happens is, if at all the child is off-white or kind of brown or kind of black or something like that, what happens is the mother is head on heels to transform the child into white, and it is being given all kinds of applied with all kinds of, what do you say for that, all kinds of treatments, creams, kind of things, so that you could transform this child into white. Because unless and until your child is white, what is the use? This is the kind of, what would people say? What would people say if your child is not fair enough? Right? This is the kind of thing that mothers usually have, parents usually have. Relatives reinforce this idea, right? Relatives come and inject this sort of an idea, and if at all the mother does not have that kind of an idea, there are relatives, of course, there are friends, of course, everybody come, the whole society comes after her and tell her that I mean, this is not something you should take care of the child. You should do something with this kind of things. So, what the concept of beauty is a kind of an ideal which the Western man, the European man, has introduced so as to colonize the energies of the non Western women, and in order to make sure that they do not go too far. They are within the limits because they are not fair enough. They go and try to fit themselves into this so-called code of fairness, and applying fairness creams, fair and lovely kind of things and all. You have fair and you become lovely, fair and lovely. So so this is the Western man want to ensure that these women do not go too far, do not cross the limit. So that is why you have this, they give us this idea of beauty, the myth of beauty, and all of the women are after that. Women cannot see the body as they are. The most perfect women, even if you go to a most the woman you feel like shy, she is a perfect woman. You just go to her and ask her, what do you think about your body? What do you think about your appearance? She would have something to change on her body, in her body, or on her body. uh, she will have to get rid of something on her body, like my nose is kind of, or my eyes kind of things. She would have to say. Nowadays, you do have this new surgical technologies like eye crease surgeries, nose refining surgeries. Then you have this dangerous skin lightening creams which ensure your perfection, which ensure or which uh, promises you the standard of beauty, right? Which promises you the standard of beauty. And this kind of a notion of the beauty consciousness, the myth of beauty, the concept that fairness is beautiful is being injected to us through different ways. Like you have matrimonials, you go through matrimonials, you see fairness as the model, fairness as the ideal, so as to get married. If you go for movies, you see kind of zero size perfect models. You have ads, advertisements, you have magazines, you have everything which injects you this idea that fairness, white is beautiful and other colors, off white, other colors are not. So when I think about this concept of beauty, well, the first thing that comes to my mind is, of course, when I was a high school student, I had a story by P.K. Shivdev. It was titled Dinama. I hope you're familiar with that. You might have read it, in the sense that it is a story which questions this idea of beauty. What is beautiful? You might be familiar with the line in that particular story, uh, and about the crow and kind of thing. Then when I think about this concept of beauty, I have, see, you might be familiar with Toni Morrison's The Bluest Eye. That is a very wonderful novel which talks about a small girl, a little black girl, Pecola. She yearns for blue eyes, blue eyes of a little white girl, and this is the whole dream that she has in her life. And all the world, I quote, all the world had agreed that a blue-eyed, yellow-haired, pink-skinned doll was what every girl child treasured. This is from Bluest Eye. See, it's really kind of a novel which again questions the idea of discrimination based on color. Yeah, then you have William Blake's The Little Black Boy, who talks about a moment, a day when I from black and he from white cloud would free ourselves. So whenever I think about these kinds of things, what I feel is we need to deconstruct the European concept of beauty, so that we would be able to get rid of the colonial hangover that is there in us through the beauty myths. We need to learn to reclaim our bodies and beauty in the ways we define. We need to learn to define beauty, define glamour, define style in our own terms. We have our own terms. We need not go for Western standard beauty standards and all. Uh, See, of course, there are lots and lots of changes where the status quo is being questioned, where the status quo is being broken, in the sense that you have media trying to deconstruct the image of the Western Europeans. We have magazines trying to be more inclusive in that sense. They would have pressures from the advertisers as such, and the status quo of the breaking of the beauty myth is beauty code is of course done with a new set of movies on list. Now this particular poem which we would be talking about by Nellie Wong, When I Was Growing Up, is an autobiographical poem which talks about how Nellie Wong, an Asian American girl, always wanted to be white in a white dominated society. In an American society, being an Asian American is real horror. I mean, for a girl, how she felt so very alienated, so very homeless, and how the moment she realized that she did not belong to the mainstream American society, uh, uh, she was kind of a rootlessness took her, and at the end of the poem what happens is she learns to come to terms with her own identity. At the end she learns to accept herself, and she tries to define beauty in her own terms. Now let's talk a bit about the poet behind the poem. Nellie Wong, she's a revolutionary feminist poet and activist, the daughter of Chinese immigrants. She was born in Oakland, California on September 12, 1934. This is a kind of a brief profile. What I did like about her is that she clarifies her stand by saying that I'm not that kind of a person who would shut my door and say goodbye to the world. I'm the kind of a person who fights. I'm the kind of a person who fight. I'm the kind of, she says that women should fight for the liberation of women, because fighting for women is as necessary as breathing is for them. And she wanted to bring about a sort of a change for women, and she encourages women to rise up. She feels like women are the most oppressed group in the society, and if women rise up or women rise up, what happens is the whole oppressed group would rise up. And there are different themes which run through her poetry. One is identity crisis, that is a recurrent theme in her poetry. She talks about her workspace, where kind of an autobiographical she is whenever she writes, and she talks about the workspace where she is given lots and lots of identities. Like people ask her, "Are you Korean, Mexican, Filipino, etc.?" She does not have her own real identity as such. Her poems also deal with the issues of immigration, racism, sexism, labor issues, the problem of being an Asian American in an American world. She talks a lot about leaving home behind, about the roots of Asian American culture, etc., etc. Nellie Wong began writing poetry in her early, in almost in 1970s. She has, to her credit, many works, her first book of poetry, Dreams in Harrison Railroad Park. Then you have Stolen Moments, The Death of Long Steam Lady, Breakfast, Lunch, Dinner, etc., etc., etc. She has also edited a work titled Talking Back, Voices of Color. And as per her profile, she is one of the founding members of Unbound Feet, which is a writing collective of Chinese American women who read together and lectured at universities throughout California in the late 1970s. She was also honored with Women of Words Award from San Francisco. Um, from the San Francisco Women's Foundation in 1989. Then you have from Mitsui Yamada, she became a subject of documentary, uh, which is titled Mitsui and Nellie, Asian American Poets, in 1981. In 2011, a building at Oakland High School was named after Wong. That's nice. So we are here to meet a wonderful poet, a wonderful revolutionary feminist. We'll talk about the poem in the next video. Thank you.